Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Women's Empowerment Webinar with National Council of Negro Women. I'm Janice Mathis, and I'm your host for tonight. I'm the Executive Director at NCNW. We welcome you, each and every one. I know that some of you tune in just about every month for these sessions, and tonight I'm so excited because we have a very, very special guest who has some information to share with us that is guaranteed, if you put it to use, will make your life better and you too will thrive. But before we get more into our speaker's introduction, I want to ask Mr. Johannes, our Director of Communications, to give us a few tips on how to make sure the GoToWebinar is working for you. Mr. Johannes?
Hello, how are you? Good evening, everyone. If you would pay attention to your menu bar, whether you're on the computer or whether you're on a mobile device, you will see an orange arrow, and near there you'll have two sections we're going to focus on. The first one is the questions section, so you can open that up and put in your question in the second part of our presentation. And the other one is sometimes you'll see a hand if you want to raise your hand about a particular question. You should see some handouts in the handout section about the presentation, and we will move forward from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johannes. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight. She has been a consultant to Alfred Street Baptist Church. She is currently a consultant to the National Council of Negro Women. She and our president, Dr. Cole, have a relationship that goes back all the way to the beginning of her career. She is a professional in development, but more than that, she is a coach. She's a strategist. She says that her goal in life is to glorify God. Well, isn't that all of our goal, or at least it should be? And she says that she will do that by using her gifts for seeing possibilities and empowering others. I have watched this woman work, and I can tell you that she certainly has done that for NCNW. She's a generosity strategist with Generous, her own firm, and has more than 2 decades of experience generating funds for worthy causes. We're so grateful that she considers NCNW one of those worthy causes. Before she started her own business, she was employed at the University of Maryland at College Park, at the National Society of High School Scholars, at the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, where she made a real impact in helping them to secure the resources necessary to pursue and achieve their mission. Please join me in welcoming Carla Maxwell Ray.
Thank you so much, E.D. Mathis, as I affectionately call you. And Mr. Johannes and Kayla, thank you for your leadership in communications. Well, I tell you, NCNW is so fortunate to have a powerhouse. She comes in a little package, but whoa, talk about impact. And I just try to keep up with her. So E.D. Mathis, thank you for your leadership, your dedication. And during this momentous time, and dare I say victorious time, we are ready to thrive. And so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about our finances and living your purpose and thriving. And don't we need it now more than ever? With COVID-19, the pandemic, even though we're rounding up and may relaunch soon, it's still, we need to know how to move ahead in our lives. And also with everything that's going on with the racial unrest, we've got to stay focused, and we can't be tied down with fiscal problems and the things that happen to us. So are we ready? Let's go. It's time to relaunch our lives. So much of what I've learned in my life has come from my parents and also from my career. And I was with my dad this time last year, and my dad is one that has a lot to say. God is definitely speaking. So what do you think he's saying? Yes, God is telling us to get ourselves in shape. And I tell you, it is definitely a a time for us to get ourselves in shape. And so I come to you to help in that process and to move us forward. Dad wants to talk some more. So, and as we move forward and in this process, we need to understand what our goals are and what we need to do to become really, really excellent at moving in a direction that's going to keep us. And I'm trying to move past my dad here. So I'm having a little bit of, there we are. Sorry about that. So I wrote a book. It's called 5 Pillars of a First Class Life. And when I was with my dad last year, and he said, Carla, it's time for us to get ourselves in shape. I took that personally, but I also took it as an opportunity to really lean in to talk about certain pillars. You see, in my career, when Dr. Cole and I worked together at Spelman, and she was the president, and I was part of the advancement team, she really guided me and taught me how to speak with and how to solicit and close major gifts from high capacity people and some regular folk who were just exceptionally generous. And there were certain principles that these folk, these generous philanthropic people had in their lives, and their lives were so fulfilling. So after 20 some years, I actually put these principles under pillars. And the 5 pillars are: be disciplined, be a masterpiece, be diligent, be radically generous, and be resilient. So what we're going to talk about today are those 5 principles and how they all work together. Now, just so that you know a little bit about me, I've had excellent parents who taught me to be fiscally smart, especially my dad. And then I also married a man, and he and I were on opposite poles of the spectrum in reference to finances. So we needed to get our act together. You know, finances is a major reason for divorce. And we really had to come together. And so we took some courses, and then we actually started teaching, and we were able to grow and become financially secure. So a couple of years ago, my husband decided he was going to take a business trip. Now, he's both a business owner and a pastor. And he says, Carla, I'm going to go in first class. So I said, Rob, we usually don't fly first class because that money can go towards a student to help with their books, or to our church so that we can do more outreach and help the homeless. So, sweetheart, why are we spending money on a first class ticket? He said, I'm going to ride first class. So he's on Delta, he's in first class. And one of our friends that we've known for a couple of decades came in and gave Rob the bump. You know how that goes. And they caught up, and their businesses are going well. And the friend goes back and sits in coach. And the friend's name is Sean. So a couple of weeks later, after my husband's home and everything, we get a call from a common colleague. And the colleague says, have you heard about Sean? We're like, oh my goodness, is Sean okay? He says, is Sean okay? Sean just sold his business for $100 million. We said, what? So I looked at my husband and I said, sweetheart, you may be in first class, on Delta, but I'm going to sit back and coach next to Sean and live a first class life. So that's how the title of my book came. And really, that's what I want to share with you. How do you thrive? How do you live a first class life? Well, part of that is some smart steps to financial freedom. And I'd like to talk about pursuing your mission. You see, these 5 pillars each have different aspects to it. So in my book, there's a reflection time, and each of the reflections deal with defining your mission, funding your mission, and or living your mission. Now, many of us know what we're supposed to do, especially those of us who have some experience. We know what we're good at, we know how things go, but some of us have difficulty funding it and therefore really miss the mark in doing what we need to do. Then there's those of us that really started our careers, even though it wasn't really what we were purposed to do. We have plenty of money and plenty of discretionary income, but we're not living according to our purpose. So we're not as passionate about life. We can't wait to retire. And things such as that. I never want to retire because I love what I do, and I want you to be the same way. Now, I would be remiss if I talked about a mission and a purpose in life and didn't describe what I do and my mission. So I have an MBA with a focus in finance. So forgive the quantitative figure here, but I'm going to go through it with you so that you can actually see what I do. EQ plus 2A equal R. E means empower. And there are 3 aspects. Educate with the best practices. Equipped with innovative, cutting-edge tools. And encourage. So I motivate to go forward. EQ plus 2A equal R. 2A. Actions, you probably guessed. Times accountability. So many times, anybody make a New Year's resolution, and by Valentine's Day, it's just blown up. I know I did. I said, I'm going to lose the 15 pounds that I gained during COVID. Ooh, I'm inching closer to 20 now. So actions time accountability. I think I need to get an accountability partner in my New Year's resolution. And that equals results. So results could be getting out of debt. Results could be to grow up spiritually. Results could be to be financially secure, to be more competent, to be a masterpiece. But to empower by educating, equipping, and encouraging, and taking the actions and accountability and multiplying those, and then you get the results. And that, my friends, leads to my mission statement. Now, you don't have to define yours quantitatively. You can just write it down, and I have a paragraph describing that too, but I thought it was fun to share that with you. All right, let's dive into the pillars. The pillars. Pillar number 1, be disciplined. Ugh, the D word. Anybody go for a morning run this morning? It was chilly, so, but did you go for that morning run? Discipline. Discipline, the root Latin word means to learn, to really grow. And there are 3 types of discipline. And you think back over your life. the opportunities for you to learn where someone disciplines you to prevent something. So it's preventative discipline. The second is supportive, like a mentor. They encourage you, they support you. And the third is corrective, punitive. Discipline is so important as we move forward. You see, financial freedom is truly a journey. It's dynamic. It's nothing that you stop doing. It's not like a destination that you reach. So how do you really change and what you do in your lifestyle? And again, the number 3, I'm going to give you 3 ways to change. And this is a good time to take some notes. So the first one, if you want to change your lifestyle and become more disciplined, the first one is to reassess what you do have. Now I'm talking about your finances. So reassess the value of your home. Whoa, here in DC and Metro DC, home values have skyrocketed. Reassess your retirement fund. Reassess the stock market, what it means to you. Have you invested in cryptocurrency? Do you know how? Reassess what you do have. 2, reprioritize. Go onto those online accounts and look to see where your spending is happening. Where is your money going? Does that align with your values? You won't be shocked by this, but do you know that the average adult American spends over $1,700 a year at Starbucks? But yet gives less than $1,000 to their house of worship. Values, people. Reprioritize. And third is to reallocate. Take action. Yes. Make sure that your spending aligns and really falls in place with your values. So you reassess, you reprioritize, and you reallocate, and your life will change. I went out to dinner before COVID with my children, and they had this hashtag be intentional. And so we had this whole discussion about what it means to be intentional. And I was so inspired by them that I actually wrote a reflection, a blog on it. And so I'm just going to go through 10 quick steps of how it is to be intentional, because that's part of being disciplined. And they are, first, you must be clear about your goal. Second, you must know your purpose. Third, identify obstacles ahead of time. We in our gut know what's going to stop us from moving forward. Fourth, prioritize your schedule, prioritize your spending, prioritize. Fifth, ask for help. And I'm going to offer some tools that will help you at the end. 6, seek an accountability partner. 7, be flexible and open. Things change. Boy, do they change. So be open to it. 8, persevere. Be diligent. 9, count the cost of not being disciplined. And 10, take the steps. Seize the moment. Go forward. You know, I have a saying, and E.D. Mathis knows this: financial promiscuity is the result of an undisciplined people. Be disciplined. Pillar number 2. All right. Be a masterpiece. Oh my God. I've got to tell you about my mom. My mom she's gone now and has her wings, but was exceptional in that she was born in Wilmington, North Carolina, in a small town outside of Wilmington, actually, and grew up in a chicken coop. Spent her early years in a chicken coop as her home. So essentially, that's homeless. She graduated. I went to high school at 9 years old. Graduated from college and graduated from high school and went to college at 13 years old. And then went through college, graduated second in her class, and then became a teacher and rose up through the ranks and became a principal. And I don't know if any of you know her, Carla Maxwell, but she impacted thousands. She expected excellence from us and would not accept anything less. But she was so gracious and kind and very generous. She knew her why and really taught me that I needed to be my authentic self. And that's what I encourage you to be, your authentic self. How can we have an impact? How can we be that artistic piece designed to do significant things? Pursuing riches will not get you there. In fact, that will even distract you. And then there's things in life that just happen that throw you off guard. So you've got to learn to heal and take care of yourself. I was in New York with the founder of a nonprofit, and we'd been working together, and we were on our way to a board meeting. And I straightened my hair just for a change. And he was Jewish, and he said to me, "Carla, may I just say something that I'm not supposed to say?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "Well, why did you straighten your hair?" And I said, "Just for a change." He says, "Well, Carla, I don't understand why Jewish and Black women straighten their hair." He says, "When you don't straighten your hair, you look trendy and hip, and when you straighten your hair, you look regular." And so I said, "That is none of your business." But what he was saying in strategic terms, if I had to take it higher, is, "Carla, just be organic. And I prefer you that way." And so I told him to mind his business, but it taught me a lesson about being organic. And then there are just many people that pour in our lives. I'm here today. I'm in this profession today. I have a goal of raising billions for racial equity, for social justice, and for the Christian community. Billions. I have a goal because Janetta B. Cole poured into me. She's the one that lit the fire. She's the one that gave me a torch to run. And so look for opportunities to connect with people that are masterpieces. In fact, while we're sitting here, just in your phone, type in the name of someone that's not perfect, but that's a masterpiece. That certainly can help us in being our unique selves. Be a masterpiece. Be diligent. Oh my God. Now, I described my mother as generous and kind and a masterpiece, And I would say diligence is like my dad's middle name. He's gone too. In fact, 1 month after the video I shared, he went and got his wings. But he really taught me to persevere. And my family teases me because they always say I have the gift of perseverance. You endure for good. Do you value hard work? Do you really slack off sometime, or do you push through? Budget, budget, budget. Yes, I'm going to say that. So it is so important that we actually do the budgeting, that we set goals, and that we set financial goals and milestones and benchmarks, and that we move forward and persevere towards that goal. Every morning, I remember my dad would wake us up, and he would say this Army call that he learned in the Army, and he would say, rise and shine, rise and shine. All hardworking men fall out, all hobos hit the road. And it was just like, ugh. But it taught me the value of hard work and the importance of getting up every morning ready to run and do what your purpose to do. So diligence is so key to really succeeding and becoming financially secure. It's not a windfall or anything such as that, because no matter how much we have, we need to be good stewards, good managers of what we're given. Now, as far as budgeting is concerned, most of us have smartphones, and there are so many apps, from Mint to Every Dollar to there's this app that's an investing app. There's so many apps that are available now that you can use. And it depends on what your goals are. Some of us need to get out of debt. Others of us need to save. Others of us want to invest and grow our portfolio. And some of us want to do all the above. So it depends on what you need to do, what app you would prefer. And then there are programs like My D Free with Dr. Cerise is an excellent program to get us started on becoming really good stewards. I'm going to offer you an opportunity to engage with me for a study to help you pursue your mission in life and to accomplish your financial goals. There's also FPU, Financial Peace University, and Crown Ministries, and many, many others that will teach you to budget and save. In conclusion, when we talk about being diligent, budgeting, and saving, I do have some tips. Establish an emergency fund, at least 9 months. And it's important that you save up minimal living expenses. Just picture yourself, March of 2020. We didn't know what was going to happen. We need to prepare now, because this was a global pandemic, or is, it still is, but all of us have pandemics in our lives. Cancer diagnosis, the loss of a job, the death of a child. There's pandemics in our lives, and many, many, many financially impact us. So we need to be prepared, and we need to save. And so I encourage you to do that. Also, get your affairs in order, have that will and trust, and NCNW is a great place to learn about that and to plant the seed for moving forward. So be diligent and get a mentor to help you with some of that. It is very important to be diligent. Ah, my favorite topic, be radically generous. Now, when you budget, it is important to save, and it is important to pay your bills on time, but it's also important to give and to be radically generous. Do you know the generous? The key term is noble, to be noble. People who are generous are noble. And I love hanging around with them. And so will you. So be generous. We have passions. We have things that we care about. Oh, especially nowadays. We care about our local community, but we also care about things like racial justice and victories, and giving to organizations like NCNW and pulling together with like-minded folk. So stop all the spending that you may do. And COVID really put a clamp in it, but don't open it up again and start that spending again. And love each other. Now, there are some steps to thriving and to being radically generous. And so I'm going to go over 4. Number 1, create a framework. So what do I mean? I mean, you have this vision, and you need to actually frame the vision where you have benchmarks and milestones. Do you see what I'm saying? So specifically, if you want to plan a beautiful vacation to Dubai, but you can't afford it, then plan, I'm going to go to Dubai in 18 months, and each month I'm going to put aside this amount of money. So I'm not going to eat out, because I'll eat out when I'm in Dubai. You know how it works. So define what you want to do, have some type of vision, and put a framework around it. And then 3rd, execute with excellence. Don't skim, don't settle for less. Just make sure that what you do is of quality and deserving of your investment. And then what I always say is think about your obstacles. So remove those obstacles, think about them, and think about how you're going to overcome those obstacles. One of my mentors is Dr. Herman Norman, and he's the one that got me into being a generosity strategist, helping churches, helping nonprofits fund their vision. And so he always says, there is joy in sacrifice. I said, there sure is, because I have children, and I know I sacrifice for my children, but boy, do they bring me joy. So there is true joy and sacrifice. And then a lot of times we see situations and we don't know what we can do, but we're passionate about helping. Joining NCNW, joining a section, being involved, funding a program is definitely a way to be generous, but also to have an impact. Many of us think, well, I don't know if I can be generous. It's just too hard. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. I was not naturally generous. So, when I was little, I have a twin sister, and we have some sister cousins who would come over every weekend, and we would have a ball. And we used to act like we were going into the desert. We played this game. It was called Wagon Train. Oh boy, I need some water. Well, we would build a tent over our beds, and then we would go down in the kitchen and we would prepare our meals to go into the desert. Well, I would think that they were rations. That's what they were on TV. So I got the crackers and the cheese and the water. Well, my twin would have Twinkies and subs, and she would have candy and soda and cookies and just everything that a 10-year-old wants. And so everybody always wanted to be on her wagon train and not with me. So they were all teasing me the next morning, and my mother overheard the discussion. And she said, Carla? And I said, well, Mom, they're taking all the food. And she says, Carla, there's more than enough in this house. There's abundance in this house. And if we run low, we'll go back and refill. We give away everything we have to those that we love. So, Carla, have an attitude of abundance and not scarcity. So I share those wise words with you. Have an attitude of abundance, because somehow God just replenishes overflow when you're generous. I'm sure many of you have experienced that. Be resilient. This is difficult. I've had some situations, and I know you have, where life has been tough. And I see others who went through so much more than I ever think I could have gone through. And yet they endure. The gift of resiliency is something that we all need to develop. And we need to learn from those who keep on smiling despite life's blows. Knowing your purpose in life will help you be resilient. Because if someone tells you you're worth nothing, you know what your purpose is. Having your finances in order will help you be resilient. So if a pandemic comes and you lose your job, you have 9 months of savings. You have investments. You're resilient. You're not fearful. Prepare to be resilient ahead of time. When I think about an oak tree, it stands firm and it is sturdy. But when the storm comes, and this happened to an oak tree in my yard the day after my dad passed, the largest branch on the oak tree fell to the ground. The oak tree loses its branches, it loses its stamina, its pieces. Oh, but the willow tree has a little bounce and can flow. Let's be like the willow tree. The storms will come, but let's be resilient and push through it. There's a scripture that says, consider it pure joy, my sisters and brothers, whenever you face trials of many types, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish her work so that you may be mature, perfect, and complete, not lacking anything. Who in your life is resilient? Who inspires you because they can push through? Don't be distracted. When you have to make decisions in your life, I actually will share with you, if you choose to continue with me in a study, how to make quantitative decisions. how to take complex and intricate decisions that impact many factors, and to make those decisions quantitatively, and to take some of the emotion out of making decisions. But know your purpose, withstand trials. And this young woman is just sitting up peacefully in her backyard, just taking in the air. A couple of years ago, my children bought me a journal, and they know I like to write and write reflections. And it was called Paris is Always a Good Idea. Oh, wow. You see, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Paris, France. It was the best experience of my life. I loved it. And I came back fluent in French. And so one of the things that I do to be resilient when something hits hard is I say, Paris is always a good idea. So around me, around my desk and in my home, I have little French things that remind me of Paris. You know what your Paris is. So have those things around you. Be resilient. All right, here we go. We're almost done. Create your mission statement. Creating your mission statement. Well, I'm going to help you with that. If you go to my website, carlamaxwellray.com, mission statement / you'll find some questions that will help you create your own short, well-organized, well-thought-out expression of your why. So go and create your mission statement and have lots of fun. Share it with me if you could and email it to me. That would be great, or through the website, you can contact me. But it's important that you ask yourself certain questions. What is your purpose in life? What impact do you want to have? What are your passions? What experiences can you use to help others improve? Where do you feel successful? Where do you feel most effective? What do you enjoy accomplishing? How, my sisters and brothers, do you want to be remembered? There's so many questions that will help you in fulfilling your mission. So what's next? Next is a study. So I offer a Thrive study, and we did this last year. It was so much fun. It's virtual, it's through Zoom, and you can come in and study with me for 7 weeks and really have some accountability partners to help you with it. And so instead of me describing it, I have this video that will give you some insight. I had 2 things that I really enjoyed. One was that it was very possible. I remember the
Turn your volume up, please.
You can't hear it? Oh, I see. Okay. I will describe what she said, and then it's on my website if you'd like to hear it. But basically, she was just saying that the study was life-altering for her and her husband, and it taught her how to budget. It taught her how to make decisions quantitatively. It taught her how to push through things that were difficult in her life and to refine what she's purposed to do. And also, it wasn't just advice, it was conviction. And she needed that to actually change some of the things that happened in her life. So you can go and register for the study and get to know me better, and also thrive even during these uncertain times. I thank you for your attention, And I thank you for being part of Thrive. And I turn it over to you, Madam ED.
Microphone, please.
Thank you so much for all of that valuable advice. And I think what makes it so compelling for me is that you tell us the stories from your own life that have motivated you to come up with these concepts and ideas and these principles. Lots of people can think up pretty words, and you certainly do that well. But when you tell us what your mom said about the cheese and the crackers, or you tell us about having first class on Delta or first class in life, that sticks with us and we remember it, and we're grateful to you for that. I want to remind our guests tonight that this program was being recorded, and there is an NCNW YouTube channel where you can go see this, and matter of fact, all of the webinars are stored there. If there's somebody in your life that you want to convince to be more generous, more diligent, to be more of a masterpiece, maybe you watch Carla's video together and then you decide to take the 7-week study together. My husband got his wings about 5 years ago. Some of you know that story. And one of our challenges was I was a saver and he was a spender. He was a great provider, but he always wanted to have the best. His clothing was all designer clothing. Mine came from TJ Maxx and whatever discount place I could find, because my mother was a lot like your mom. And we come home and say, Mommy, I want a designer pocketbook, or I want some designer jeans, because all the other kids in school, she'd so sweetly smile and look at us and say, well, you know, we're saving for college. And, you know, we had to make some hard choices. And I'm sorry you can't have a John Romaine purse, but maybe they're not going to college.
That's right.
And when the time came, she never had a fur coat. She never had a big diamond ring. She never got on an airplane. But she sent one girl to Oberlin and one to Duke all at the same time. So that I just tell you that story so that you know that what Carla is telling you is real. And I don't always get behind speakers and try to re-preach their sermon. And I'm not going to do any more of that tonight. But this is really, truly good advice. I'd like to pose one question. How did you and your husband, I know you have a great, solid marriage, how did you overcome the differences in your point of view? Did he ever go sit with you and coach, or were you able to find a compromise, maybe in business class? How did you reconcile so that you could remain supportive of each other?
So we could remain married.
Yes.
Absolutely. We were very much on opposite spectrums. And even though we loved each other, we could not have remained married happily the way we were. So we actually took a course similar to Thrive. And back then it was called, we took Crown Financial Ministries. And Crown Financial Ministries put us on the same plate. It's scripture based, so you can't argue with the word of God. And we grew up, we matured. And so we took that course and we actually started teaching it. And that actually started us on our path to helping families live financially secure lives. And last year we taught 70 families. We teach together a lot of times now, because we do think different and function different, but we base our decisions on principles. And so we teach together, and it's just, people just don't know how hard it is to get on the same plate. And then the good report is not only are we financially secure, but our children don't have debt except for their mortgages, which is an appreciable asset. So our children, who are just young adults just starting out, don't have debt.
Isn't that wonderful? That's wonderful. I'm going to stop talking and see if any of our listeners, our audience, have any questions There are 93 people listening to you right now. So let's see, Mr. Johannes, do we have any questions?
Yes, ma'am, we do. The first question is, can you have more than one accountability partner?
Absolutely. So if you have a problem with debt, but also you want to start investing, then one person may help you budget, like an accountant, and another person may help you, like a financial advisor or an investing agent may help you invest appropriately. So absolutely, you can have more than one accountability partner. That's wise.
And we have one from the
Great.
audience. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How do we encourage our peers to involve themselves in civic engagement, 20s and 30s of today?
And civic engagement. Is that what you're saying? Is that the question?
Yes, in civic engagement.
So, and Janice, I'm gonna let you chime in because I know NCNW has a thrust that actually is going after the younger generation. And NCNW has sections that have activities and networking. But I would just say this before Janice adds to that, is we all need mentors. And even those of us that are mature and doing well financially, we need mentors. And I learn from E.D. Mathis all the time. I learn from Dr. Cole, and I learn from my children. So to put yourself in an environment where you're being mentored by others is so important. Why experience something that someone else has been through and you can learn their lessons without actually torturing yourself? So putting yourself in small, intimate groups where you can share and build trust and mentorships is so key to thriving.
That is such great advice. The only thing I would add is I think we're beginning to see a new age of enlightenment among young folk when it comes to civic engagement. If you look at the early numbers from the November 2020 election, young people in this country voted at extraordinarily better levels than they have in the past. You had something like a 40% voter turnout in voters under the age of 40. That is historic. In 2016, it was 16%. And so we are doing much better. And I hate to say it, but tragedy has helped us to focus on what is truly important. You talked about prioritizing. What is more important? What a celebrity is saying about another celebrity on one of the Real Housewives franchise shows, or what Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell are saying about infrastructure and the environment and wages. When you really start prioritizing what's important to you, you will naturally gravitate towards civic engagement because you realize that is the way you express your voice. I would encourage folks to go to NCNW's website, read some of the articles and commentary, and involve yourself in an organization. I want you to join NCNW, okay? But that may not be for everyone. But when you work in small groups, just like Carla said, you get immersed in a subject. Right now, we should be calling our United States senators to ask them to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Absolutely. If you believe that Black Lives Matter, then call your senator. We all have 2 senators. Fortunately, I live in Maryland, so my senators are going to vote for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But if you live in Arizona, if you live in West Virginia, if you live in Alaska, call your senators and let them know that you want this legislation passed. Once you get involved in it, you won't have to be encouraged because you will get that feedback loop that comes from knowing that you did something important and worthwhile. Absolutely. Any other questions? We sort of meandered away from our topic, but you connected generosity to causes and the things that you believe in, and that's where it comes from. What do you believe is important? Any other questions or comments?
Yes. How often should we review and make changes to our savings, 401k, monthly, quarterly? They're looking for some advice on how to get disciplined.
So I hear two questions there. One is, how often should you reassess your 401k, your stocks, your investments, your savings? And also I hear another question about how to become more disciplined. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one, when there is a life change, a new job, or you're taking in your parents to live with you, or whatever, a significant life change, it's time to reassess in light of that change. So it's time to reassess your finances, your retirement funds, etc. Also, annually, I definitely would say, look at everything and see where you're going. As we relaunch and the world moves forward, I will never go back. But as we move forward, then I would say now is a great time to reassess where you are financially, where you want to be, how you're going to go there. And I'm sure many of you are making decisions. Do I want to continue working from home? Or do I want to explore a opportunity that may cause me to travel or be on the road and have a commute, even though it pays a lot more? What are my quality of life issues? So there is much to consider as we relaunch and regather and come back to some type of daily routine. So I hope that answered your question. To become more disciplined, I mentioned several steps to becoming disciplined. First, take the 7-week course and see if that helps in a tremendous way. And also go on Amazon. Amazon.com is my book, 5 Pillars of a First Class Life. So to find out more, go to carlamaxwellray.com/thrive, and you'll find out more about the book and also becoming disciplined and utilizing this course to study to help in that way.
What advice would you give to a newly retired woman? I'm assuming finances.
Wow. So here we are, where you're fortunate to have a fixed amount. I know I used to, in fundraising, people would say, well, I'm on a fixed income. And I'm like, that sounds great. So you have a fixed amount, which gives you certainty. So I would say budgeting is very important. And I have parameters. So if you get my book, it's in my book, the parameters as far as 30% to go towards rent and mortgage. So there are certain parameters, 10% towards transportation, but that's if you work. So if you don't work, maybe even less towards transportation. And so I have parameters about rough percentages and budgeting that you should use and how much should go towards each category. And then someone who's retired, I would say this: seek your passion, really give and make an impact, because to have freedom of time is such a gift. But you want to make sure that you stay sharp and cutting edge and fluid in this world, in this ever-changing world. And so I would say get involved, have an impact, and don't stay stagnant.
Our next question is, how do you find a mentor? I'm working for a youth program.
So you're looking for a youth program for a mentor? or
No,
to
looking
help?
for me
Pardon?
themselves.
Ah, so you're young and you want to find a mentor. Well, it depends on how young you are. So if you're in high school or something such as that, then there are programs with like Boys and Girls Clubs of America and programs like that that actually can connect you with a senior or something, someone that's moving on in college. If you're in college, oh my God, join a sorority or or become involved with a church. That's a great place to find mentors. The main thing that you want to do is you want to write down your values, find someone that's really achieving what you'd like to achieve, and then ask if they could mentor you. Now, I do have a little footnote. The mentee should do some work because the mentor is offering their expertise, their experience, their guiding hand, and the mentee needs to do things to keep the relationship healthy and alive.
Do we have any other questions? Asking for a final call at this point. I will say, before we go any further, if you look in the chat, you will see two things. One is a link to Miss Carla Maxwell Ray's website and to her study, which is Thrive. And you'll see that link in there. Also, if you'd like to talk to her directly, she has provided an email address, and it's also in your chat box. We have a question here. What is the NCNW YouTube link? That's a question for me. And the answer would be, if you would go to YouTube and put in NCNW headquarters, you will see our logo, and you will see not only the previous ones, but I would suggest you look at Ms. Ray's webinar from last year, because the information has grown and expanded. Now, then we have one more question for you, and as one of the very disciplined, generous, I don't spend enough money on me. Should I reassess the situation during the pandemic in quiet time?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you should. I would suggest that you have some type of budget guide. So if you take the 7-week course, I'll be able to guide you in that way. As far as how much should I spend on myself and that type of thing. Some of us have significant disposable income and we can spend a lot on ourselves. But there's joy in spending in others. But make sure you take care of your needs and some of your wants. There's abundance, as my mom says.
Now, you were talking about your study. If you want to talk about that a little more in your offering, and we'll do that as part of the wrap up.
Okay, good. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about it now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm just appreciative to NCNW, appreciative to Dr. Cole, ED Mathis, and the whole team there at NCNW. I'm appreciative to you for staying with me during this journey and also your interest in thriving. I pray that God bring you financial wealth and that you handle it well. I really believe, and I am witness firsthand to the influx of finances that's coming into the African American community. All of us know about the HBCUs receiving tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So I believe that we really need to prepare for an influx, whether it's reparations or in some other form. But there's going to be an influx of finances in our community. And we need to be very prepared on how to handle it. It distresses me that after the stimulus money came out, that I smelled all types of substances that I didn't smell before because people didn't have the money. So I just say to everyone out there that let's be smart and let's invest our money and grow it so that future generations will be able to benefit from it, and we can benefit from ourselves, and we aren't scared when a pandemic happens. As long as we take care of our health, then we'll be safe. Thrive is one way for you to learn more. Some of us are pretty sure about what we're doing and we're enjoying what we're doing, but we need to tighten. And so one reason for you to take Thrive is not only to get better at handling your finances, but also to help others, because it's a community of sharing. So what we do is once a week on Thursdays from 7 until about 8:15 or so, we come together and we exchange and we share. There's homework. You read the book comes with it. I'm giving that to NCNW members. So the book comes with it. So you receive the book and you read portions of it each week. There are scriptures that are involved that can benefit your growth spiritually too. And at the end of the session, you actually complete your mission statement, and you know how to fund it because you also have a budget. So you've accomplished a lot in 7 weeks that will really change your lives. And if you're a family, you and your spouse can take the course together and both benefit from that. Some of you may want to offer it to your book club or your gathering of the girls, your sorority, your fraternity, your church group. So come on and let's grow together and thrive.
There's a question, is this presentation available? I would suggest that you, because this is a presentation, it doesn't make a PDF like we normally have, but this video will be up on our channel next week, so you will be able to see it again.
Well, thank you for your questions, for your attentiveness, and for thriving.
Thank you, and we wish everyone a good night. Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you, those in the audience, for coming with us. We know that you learned something. We encourage you to apply it. You brought this program by the National Council of Negro Women. Good night and good evening.
Good night.